as you heard in Avery Davidson's interview with Farm Bureau President Ronnie Anderson, this week marks our 30th anniversary of This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. It was 30 years ago this week that the very first show aired on KNOE TV in Monroe. A week later, WAFB TV here in Baton Rouge began running our program, and since then, 17 cable and broadcast stations across Louisiana have aired our program. In 2000, the RFD TV network in Nashville began to distribute our program nationally, and each week nearly 500,000 viewers like you watch our program. This Week in Louisiana Agriculture was created by former Farm Bureau Director of Public Relations Reginald Wallace. Wallace was a farmer sportscaster for KALB TV in Alexandria in the early 1960s. In 1969, he came to work for the Farm Bureau, but it wasn't until the spring of 1981 did Wallace come up with the idea of a television program dedicated solely to news about agriculture. Today, it remains the only Louisiana television program whose mission is to tell the farmer's story. This Week in Louisiana Agriculture's Tammi Arender with a look now at the man who started it all.
KMAR. And I know the farmers are wanting some sunshine right now.
For nearly 30 years, he was considered the voice of Louisiana agriculture. He's responsible for almost single-handedly putting farm broadcasting on the map here in Louisiana. For Reginald Wallace, agriculture was part of who he was. Growing up on a farm in rural Crowville, Louisiana, in Franklin Parish, he was surrounded by the cotton fields that once dominated the local landscape. So it was only natural that Wallace would spend a lifetime telling the farmer's story.
He loves agriculture. He grew up in agriculture. He grew up around agriculture. He understands the significance of agriculture. He understands its importance to the farmer on one end, to the consumer on the other. And he's out there telling the story.
You know, I worked with Reginald Wallace for 12 years on our program, and not once did I ever see Reg type out a script on a typewriter. He wrote all of his scripts out on a legal pad with a number 2 pencil. He had come from the pioneering days of television. In our early days, there was no teleprompter, there was no internet, there was no HD camera. It was one-gun TV, and he made the most of it.
But first, these messages.
So it was a niche that was needed very definitely, and he filled that need for farmers and agriculture in Louisiana.
You know, we talk about Farm Bureau being the voice of agriculture. Reg was the voice of Farm Bureau.
A lot of people have deep voices, but Reg had that classic broadcast voice.
Good morning and welcome to This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. I'm Reginald Wallace.
Wallace began his broadcast career while serving in the U.S. Army in the late 1950s. His Farm Bureau career began in 1969 when he was named Information Director by then Farm Bureau President James Gronyard. Wallace's charge was to expand the message of agriculture beyond the organization's monthly newspaper, the Louisiana Farm Bureau News. Wallace would begin the company's public relations efforts by loosely organizing a group of radio stations that in 1998 would become the Louisiana Farm Bureau Radio Network. But it wasn't until 1981 that Wallace would create the cornerstone of the Farm Bureau's public relations efforts, its weekly television program, This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
This Week in Louisiana Agriculture is produced by the Information Department of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation.
Heretofore, you typed up your news release and mailed it or ran it down to the local TV newspaper stations and just prayed that they would use it so you could get your particular message out. Reg saw an entirely different thing.
And I remember when Reg went to the board of directors with his idea, I think probably a lot of them thought he was crazy. I certainly wasn't completely sold on the idea because I didn't really know what we were getting ready to get into. But Reg had a dream and he made it work.
The board, we thought about it, and after much discussion, we approved going forward, and it was a great investment. It's really turned dividends for us many times over.
When you look at what Reg Wallace did in the early 1980s by taking secular news technology and applying it to public relations, I mean, it was nothing short of genius. Reg figured the best way to break into the news cycles was to look like a news operation yourself, and that's exactly what he did.
The idea worked, and it worked so very well that Louisiana became the example that every other state farm bureau in the entire country has copied.
From what the people at USDA told you is the general outlook for the ag economy coming out of 1989 and going into 1990.
Over the years, Wallace reported on farm newsmakers in Louisiana and in Washington, all the while working to expand his viewers' and listeners' understanding of the importance of agriculture. In a 2006 interview, he said while agricultural issues have remained fairly constant over the years, it never diminished the importance of the message.
Agricultural issues don't change that much. We covered environmental issues, and we tried to show that the farmer was an environmentalist and loved the land and loved the environment because that's how he made his living. So that was one of the issues. Farm prices, to try to explain how farm prices are set and why farm programs are necessary is a difficult thing to do. That sounds like a winner. You ready for your 3 count?
But it was something that needed to be done. There was no easy way for farmers in this state to find out what was going on.
Telling the story of agriculture was difficult for me because I had covered things like police beats and school boards and city councils. Agriculture was a completely different animal to me, and Reg taught me everything I know about telling a good farm news story.
He just has been totally dedicated to delivering that message, and it's a message that he believes in.
Although Reginald Wallace retired from the Louisiana Farm Bureau in 1997, he didn't stay retired very long. Returning home to Franklin Parish, he soon became farm director for KMAR Radio in Winsboro. His daily radio program, Round Franklin, can still be heard across Northeast Louisiana. And as his broadcast career surpasses the 50-year mark, Reg Wallace still remains the voice of Louisiana agriculture.
He did so much to further the advancement of agricultural reporting and telling that story to the people of Louisiana. He's an amazing man.
Really, his life's work has been to make agriculture better using the gift that God gave him of that wonderful voice.
He has made a universal statement across Louisiana about Louisiana agriculture and its significance, the economic impact, the social impact, cultural impact. It's been quite a message over the last 30 years.
There's really no doubt that Reg Wallace was a pioneer in the realm of farm broadcasting, and I think the farmers and ranchers of our state owe Reg Wallace a tremendous debt of gratitude for having spent a lifetime telling their story.
And for someone like Reg Wallace to do what he did shows a lot of dedication, a lot of service to this state that cannot be overlooked. He did a great job, he does a great job, and we can still learn a lot from him.
As you heard in Tammi Arender's report, Reg Wallace can still be heard on the air on radio station KMAR in Winsboro. Wallace, who's 76, continues to bring farm news to his listeners across Northeast Louisiana, and we at This Week in Louisiana Agriculture are certainly grateful for his vision. Some final comments about our 30 years on the air when we come back. Stay with us.